Hi, I'm Angie DeArth from Inland Professional Title, and every Thursday morning we do video blogs on different subjects of interest in the real estate industry. I have with me today Crystal Darling, who is the escrow manager, and we're going to talk about seller financing. There seems to be a lot of questions on seller financing these days, and this is when the seller elects to become the bank. So there's no traditional financing out there that is done. The seller's pretty much carrying the paper. So payments are made through like an escrow collection company to the seller each month, and seller earns an interest on this. So what we're going to talk about today is the big problem that we're getting on these calls, and most of it has to do with the new regulations on seller financing. And these regulations affect owner-occupied property only. So if you're selling to a person who is going to move into that home, then the rule is that the seller has to apply for this waiver from Department of Financial Institutions. And the waiver is for the seller not to have to become a licensed mortgage broker. In the state of Washington, they are allowed up to 5 in a calendar year. And the process of seeing if you can get this waiver is pretty easy. So Crystal, I know you get calls from agents because the purchase and sale agreement specifically says if it's owner occupied, you have to get this waiver. Do you get the calls from these agents on who prepares this waiver, who gets it, who applies for it?
Yeah, we do. We get people that look at their 22C, and it states that the seller should be obtaining a waiver from the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions, and they don't know how to do it. So they call us and they just ask, can you guide us through the process? We're not sure who to contact and how to fill it out. So,
okay. Is it an easy process?
It is easy. They're pretty user friendly with us. We can help you get into contact with the DFI. Get that initial form filled out for the waiver, and then get your waiver completed.
Okay. So now the form says seller obtains a waiver from the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions. Okay. So the listing agent presents this to the seller to sign. The seller sees that they have to get this waiver. But what if the listing agent doesn't even point this out to the seller that they need to get this waiver, and it gets by the seller, it gets by the listing agent? Now you have this on your desk and you're getting ready to put the closing together. What do you do at that point? Do you verify?
We do. We call the agent first and ask if they had obtained the waiver yet or not, and sometimes they just have to ask their seller because they're not sure. So if nobody's done that, then we can help guide them through getting that waiver through the DFI.
Okay, because I understand the waiver, it's just a matter of clicking on the DFI website, filling in the seller's name, address of the property, and submitting it.
Yep.
And they get a reply in like an hour.
Yeah, really easy. They're super friendly there, easy to work with, and they are very responsive as well. So yeah.
Perfect. But this is an item that you as the closer will demand is part of your transaction, correct?
Yes, we will look to see if that's been completed. So if we don't have it on a seller financing, we'll ask, is this going to be your primary residence? And if it is, then we're going to ask for the waiver.
Right. Because the document doesn't say that a copy of it's going to be obtained and given to the purchaser.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that's kind of just floating out there.
It is. So that's something that as a closer, that's why we want to make sure we just kind of try and protect everybody and make sure that it's closed per the contract.
Perfect. So. Okay. So that is for residential owner-occupied properties only that you have to obtain that waiver, and your closers will help you obtain that by helping guide you through on that if everything's clear. So let's see. Next week we are going to talk about the differences between a note and deed of trust or a real estate contract. And then the last week we're going to talk about escrow collection, the independent third party holding the documents and handling the money each month on these payments. So thank you for choosing Inland Professional Title, and we look forward to talking to you next week.